Hey guys, Dr. Nathan Warren here, and I wanted to go over a topic that I think is absolutely serious. So I want to make sure that, again, as people are jumping on, I wanted to be able to go over this topic live because, I'm a parent, I have 2 kids, and I'll tell you right now, the last thing that I want is for them to be exposed to toxins that can drastically damage their bodies and their brains. So what I'm going to be talking about in this video is I'm going to be actually explaining a new study that just came out from NYU, so New York University, and it was actually published in the Journal of Molecular and Cellular Endocrinology. And so, this study is basically looking at saying, hey, what are some of the primary factors that are decreasing the IQ of our kids in this country? And so what they did is it was a 15-year study where they looked from 2001 to 2016. And so previous to that, the 2 biggest exposures that were creating a lower IQ in our children were lead and mercury, all right? And so they were, combining for millions of IQ points lost across our country. And so what they did is they looked at this 2001, 2016, and what they found is that 2 main contributors actually passed the IQ point lowering ability of things like lead and mercury, and those things are pesticides and flame retardants. So pesticides and flame retardants. And so what this study actually showed is that combined flame retardants resulted in a loss of 162 million IQ points over the course of 2001 to 2016. So again, when I hear something like this, it is drastically alarming. Why? Because this is literally our kids' brain development. And so flame retardants, it's almost getting to the point where it's still to this day, even though we have less than what we did, it's still nearly impossible to find, certain types of baby products that do not contain flame retardants. And so they're still there. And usually, unfortunately, a lot of companies will just change up their product and again, just switch it around a bit and still contain a high amount of toxicity levels as well. So we're going to go through some safe options for your kids, and we're going to go over some solutions. But anyway, I kind of wanted to dive into this study a little bit because I think this is just massively important really to the future of our country, to the future of our kids, and the way that they are dealing with their brain development. So again, lead and mercury have always been 2 of the major ones that we've known for a long time. Exposure, to kids is going to lower their IQ points during specific development of the brain. Guys, when we're talking about babies and kids, again, their brains are developing at such a rapid and delicate pace that these type of neurotoxins can absolutely damage the way that their brains are actually growing, the way that their brains are actually developing. So we want to make sure that again, we're really nurturing those first few years of life, and we're trying to reduce their toxicity load. You guys have heard me talk about, many times on other videos, something called generational toxicity. And generational toxicity is a real thing, right, guys? Generational toxicity means that you are not just a product of the toxins you are exposed to now. We know that toxins get passed down from mother to baby. And so we know certain toxins like lead, like mercury, they go across 4 generations, some studies even showing up to 8 generations, where these metals are actually passed down from mother to baby. And so guess what that means? That means your baby has a higher toxic bucket load than you did when you were born, right? We all have this invisible bucket inside of our bodies where we can withstand so many toxins. Guys, the bucket that your child is born with is much fuller than what your bucket is, again, when you were born. So we want to make sure that we're taking that into account and taking that into note. And so in this study, what they did is they looked at lead, mercury, pesticides, and a specific one called polybrominated diphenyl ethers, all right? And so that's just a fancy word for flame retardants. And so when they were looking at this, I already mentioned 162 million IQ points lost just from flame retardants alone. when they combined, so here's the other ones, US kids, 78 million IQ points are lost from lead, right, over that 15-year period. 27 million IQ points were lost from pesticides, and then 2.5 million IQ points, again, was estimated were lost from mercury exposure. Now, in this article, as they're going through it, they talk about the main primary areas where they're exposed to lead and mercury have been, kind of banned and dismantled with the lead that was in gasoline, and with the mercury that was derived in many different areas there, but specifically coming from like coal plants and things like that. But unfortunately, I think this study's missing, again, certain other exposures as well. Just because they removed lead from gas didn't mean that they didn't add in other heavy metals that are, just as, toxic to the brain, just as toxic to the body, like thallium, like cadmium, some of those heavy metals as well. But also, too, mercury and lead, I just explained, get passed down from mother to baby. So that doesn't take into account generational toxicity either. But as on this point, talking about pesticides and flame retardants as two of the new ones that kind of hit this area and really have drastically impacted the development of our kids' brains. Listen to this. So if your child, and this is breaking it down not only from a health standpoint, but a financial standpoint, which I think is really important as well too. So looking at this burden, again, not only on our country, but what it's gonna do to impact our economy. So if the child potentially would make $1 million in their lifetime, right? $1 million in their lifetime, estimate. So that means that every IQ point lost is like losing $20,000, all right? So losing $20,000 of money that gets put back into our economy, that gets put back into our country here. So here we go. This is gonna blow your mind. Let me make sure I find it. So combined loss from 2001 to 2016 from IQ points being lost by our children cost this country $6 trillion. $6 trillion. Are you stinking kidding me? So even from just the financial aspect of this, guys, if we continue down this road of all of these toxic exposures to our kids, again, financially, right, this country cannot survive. We're already seeing this, hit with Alzheimer's and dementia in our elderly. And again, financially, if that continues to rise at the rate it does, I mean, there's no way you stay stable. The other ones, especially like looking at things like autism, if it continues to rise at that rate, we're looking at, unfortunately, throughout like a child from 0 to 18, you're looking at about $5 million worth of care for an autistic child. And so again, financially from that standpoint, this country cannot survive with the health rates that are going on right now. So we have to get serious about this, and we have to recognize that there's some major changes that we have to make. And so one of the things that they talk about in this study, one of the head researchers here at NYU talks about how now they're looking at toxicity a little bit different. Finally, they used to look at toxicity studies and they would say, what is the amount of toxin that will kill a person or drastically disable them? What they did not look at with toxicity is how many toxins, again, accumulate in the body to over time create dysfunction and lead to disease. This is a major, major issue, because what they fail to look at is how much mercury does it take to actually accumulate in the body to create things like damage to the brain, to create things like, ADD, ADHD, autism, Alzheimer's, dementia, those type of things. How much, pesticides accumulate in the body to create things like cancer, to create other types of chronic disease. And so now they're starting to look at that, and that's one thing that they mention in here in this article itself. So now let's go over some solutions for those of you that are just now joining us. Again, I'm talking about a new study out of NYU that actually looked at how flame retardants and pesticides along with lead and mercury are costing our kids literally over 200 million IQ points over the course of 2001 to 2016. So literally seeing our kids' IQ directly affected. And in this article, they make this statement, they say that is irreversible. They say this cannot be reversed. Now, that's from a medical standpoint, and I believe, in 2014 when they discovered that the brain is directly connected to the immune system and the lymphatic system, and showing that actually the brain can change, it can grow, it can heal, and actually seeing, I think that turned neuroscience on its head. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Now, I do believe, when it comes to IQ points, unfortunately, when you dive into the scientific literature, so far all the studies show that, again, to raise IQ is very, very, very hard. And so, again, we need to make sure that we keep that in the back of our minds there. So what are some things that we can do? Let me answer a couple questions here. First, good to see you, Danielle. Stacy, Danielle, good to see you. Victoria, I'll never understand why flame retardants were taken out of mattresses. So listen to this, so flame retardants, again, even though they make you seem like they're going to, save you from catching on fire and save you from a fire, flame retardants were actually shown. I pulled up a study here in 2014. This is actually a study from the University of Texas in Austin. They basically, researchers found that, children, babies, are exposed to high levels of emissions from flame retardants when they're laying on their crib mattresses. So again, this is literally laying on a regular crib mattress. You're being exposed to high amounts of these flame retardant chemicals that we know create damage specifically to the brain. And here's what else they found. They found that as the child's body temperature and the body heat increases, the amount of emissions actually increase. So that means it's creating a gas-like emission from that mattress and creating massive amounts of toxins that are actually going into the baby's body. And actually studies for things like sudden infant death syndrome have been linked, again, not necessarily showing a direct association, but have been linked to things like toxins in crib mattresses. So first thing that I would recommend, if you are a parent, or if you are, maybe you're pregnant, or maybe you have a baby, again, I think this is something that if you have the financial ability, and if you don't, you should sell some things to have the financial ability, but make sure I would switch out my child's crib. And really the one I recommend is Naturepedic. Naturepedic makes a really good one. And so when we look at the way that Naturepedic makes it, I pulled it up for you guys so I could read it. They're certified organic cotton, non-GMO filling. They use no polyurethane foam actually in their product. When you look at it, it's GOTS certified. And it's also, they use a plant-based polyethylene from non-GMO sugarcane that makes it waterproof as well. So again, if I'm going to be, if I'm a new parent, or if you're about to have a baby, Naturepedic is the way to go. Is it an investment? Yeah, I think they'll run you about $300 to $400. You may be able to get it on sale if you look online. But here's the thing, put it on your list, have somebody else, chip in, have multiple people chip in to help you get it. If you got grandparents, have them help, whatever it is, just keep these toxins away from your child. It will directly affect their IQ and their brain development. This should be shouted from the rooftops if we want to protect our kids. The other thing is, and again, I actually saw Victoria, you mentioned looking at things like clothing, right? Pajamas. Guys, these things, if you're just buying these from, a regular store, there is a great chance that they contain certain types of flame retardants and certain types of, again, even things like, cotton grown with pesticides, which are getting into your child's skin. So yes, I absolutely think it is important to start shifting over towards clothing and companies that are using, different products that contain non-toxic materials. And I'm about to go over some of those with you as well, because I know it's a little bit hard when you're a parent and you're saying, well, you know what, I'm already trying to feed them well, I'm already trying to do all these different things well. Now you're telling me that I need to go out and actually buy, organic clothes, or clothes that are non-toxic, bedding that's non-toxic. And unfortunately, as much as I want you to, again, financially not have to spend a massive amount, this is just the way it is, and it's your children. You're investing in your kids. And yes, I think it is that important that we start doing this as well. So I'm going to go over some of my favorite companies out there, and there's many others, okay? So there's many other companies out there that are doing it as well. We're starting to see a trend here, which is fantastic. So Hannah Anderson is one that actually is 100% organic. When we're looking at their, especially like they have things like pajamas. Actually, I think that's where Dr. Rebecca got her Christmas pajamas. So Hannah Anderson is one that you can look into. A company called Pact, P-A-C-T, is one. Loved, so Loved Baby is another one that you can look into. I know that companies like H&M have an organic conscious line that they have going on there. So that's something you can look into. Patagonia, actually my favorite clothing company on the planet is Patagonia. Why? Because they have a mission that goes far beyond just making money, and I love it, man. Their mission is to actually impact this planet and make a major difference in the environment, and I love what they stand for. But anyway, that's a great one as well. They have plenty of organic. Yep, Victoria, you mentioned Burt's Bees has a lot of organic baby clothing that you can get. So again, as a new parent with a baby, load up on some organic onesies, right, that you can throw on your baby. Load up on the organic pajamas that you can get, and then again, pick out specific certain outfits that are organic. You don't have to go overboard with the baby clothing. Trust me, I've got 2 kids of my own. It's like all they did is grow out of their baby clothing. Half of them we didn't even get to use, right? So also too, look on different groups, different mom groups. If you have, see if anybody is actually giving away secondhand, organic baby clothing. I'm telling you, you can find these things if we just look. And so some other ones, Boden, B-O-D-E-N is a good one. Touch by Nature is another one as well. And again, I can probably get this posted for you guys if you would like. Art and Eden has some really cool, kids clothing that is also organic. As well, Jazzy Organic. So that gives you a bunch of different options. You can go through those, look what fits your budget, and again, look what also you like as far as design goes. But I do think it is important to make the switch over for your child's brain. Now, as far as like what it looks like for your kids and brain development, I did want to touch on that for just a second, because I do think that, Under the Nile, that's a great one as well too, that I like as well. Now, when we're looking at brain development in children, all right, here are some of the most important things that we can do to create a healthy brain for our kids. Number 1, protect their gut. Protect their gut, protect their gut, protect their gut. The gut-brain axis is a serious thing. We actually know that a dysbiosis in the gut, so an imbalance of bacteria in the gut, can actually create these toxins that are released by these bacteria that directly affect the vagus nerve. That vagus nerve actually goes all the way and connects from the brain down to the gut. That nerve, those toxins can actually travel up the vagus nerve and directly affect into the brain. Right? So we know there is this gut-brain axis. So we have to protect our kids' guts. And so that's where the pesticide thing comes in. Because again, we talked about pesticides lowering IQ points in these kids. Guys, those things are massively toxic. It is time to make sure that you're switching over to organic food as much as you possibly can. It is that important. Yes, organic food. I hear this all the time, but Dr. Nathan, I know that organic food can contain some pesticides as well. Yes, it can contain some pesticide residue just because we're spraying that crap everywhere, but it's much less than what you're gonna find on conventional food, right? So we wanna go ahead and make that switch. Also make the switch. The meat that you consume should come from animals that are raised on pastured lands that do not spray their lands with anything, right? And that have not been injected with antibiotics and hormones, because what they ate, right, when you eat them, that's what you're also eating as well. So we wanna make sure that we're paying attention to that. Protect the gut. It is that important. Again, you can do some things by rotating different types of bacteria. If it's an infant, right, Claire Labs, that's the one that we use. They have an infant probiotic that is fantastic for kids. You can also, as they grow and they get a little bit older, you can start using things like Ion Biome, which actually helps to nurture the environment of the gut. We like to use that one, and it helps to close up a leaky gut and really help to create a healthy environment in the gut. as well. You can rotate different probiotics. I like to talk about rotating spore-based probiotics, especially for our kids. I think that's fantastic that are out there, and I've posted links in previous videos with that. You can actually go on Microbiome Labs, or you can go on our Wellevate store and find some spore form probiotics that are great to give kids, right, and really protect their gut. Some other things that are amazing: really feeding your children lots and lots of good healthy fat, right? All the good healthy fat, avocados, things like pastured eggs and egg yolks, things like olive oil, things like some things like MCT oil, I think is amazing. Giving your kids plenty of raw, like sprouted nuts and seeds are fantastic to do. Some of our favorites for our kids, they love things like Brazil nuts, which supply a massive amount of selenium just in 3 or 4 Brazil nuts. Pumpkin seeds are just loaded with minerals that are amazing for the brain, for brain development and neurotransmitters. Things like sunflower seeds, other raw nuts and seeds that are out there as well. Macadamia nuts are fantastic. So including lots of these good healthy fat is going to be huge for your child's brain development. I also am a big firm believer. Again, other people may have different views than us, and that's okay, man. I love you just the same. But I'm a firm believer that, again, for my kids, I would never go without some type of animal protein and animal fat in their diet from the standpoint of the amount of nutrient density. Now, I do stand with people who are plant-based in the stance that says conventional meat is highly toxic, not only to the body, but highly toxic to our environment as well. But I do believe, regenerative, sustainable agriculture, raising pasture-raised animals can be a part, and I think a necessity in raising healthy brains for healthy kids as well. Some other things that I like to do with our kids to build up a healthy brain, I do supplement with a couple things. I like to use Brainy Play by Systemic Formulas. And it actually contains algae oil, so oil that's cold pressed, extracted, CO2 extracted from algae. So a really, really good profile of omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids. But it's also balanced with things like evening primrose oil, borage oil, things like coconut oil, hemp seed oil, and flaxseed oil. All of those things are in one to create a 4-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, which is what our brain needs, right? So we supply them with a lot of that. We do a lot of grass-fed butter, which I think is absolutely huge, and a really good healthy fat for them as well. So we want to build that up. Make sure that kids, remember, they're going to consume more healthy carbohydrates as well, which is good for them. So, kids naturally are going to, consume things like sweet potatoes, like fruit, things like lots of blueberries, which are wild blueberries are amazing for the brain. They increase BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor. So I really love utilizing wild blueberries with my kids. They eat those things like it's candy. Other things like raspberries, strawberries, feeding our kids these good healthy carbohydrates, cruciferous vegetables. Some of the things that we like to use as well. Here's a supplement worth looking into for your kids. It's called Broccoli. And they actually use sulforaphane, which is a powerful stimulator of the NRF2 pathway. Now, you don't have to know what that means, but the NRF2 pathway is one of the best pathways to actually decrease not only inflammation, but to really do some amazing things for the brain. So we like to use broccoli sprouts to get that sulforaphane for our kids to build up a very, very healthy brain for our kids. So if you're just now tuning in, it's good to see everybody on here. I'm talking about toxins that are directly affecting your child's brain and their IQ points. We know that we're seeing literally millions of IQ points lost from 2001 to 2016. We saw 162 million IQ points in our children lost just from flame retardants alone, right? So changing out the crib mattresses is one thing that I went over earlier. Getting a non-toxic mattress for your children is that important. A study from 2014 from the University of Texas at Austin showed that it emits, so these toxic mattresses, regular mattresses, emit these gases, off gas, these flame retardants, and your children are breathing these things in. And the higher their body temperature goes, the greater emission is actually let up. So we want to make sure that, again, we're changing out our toxic mattresses. The other one that had a major hit, again, is looking at pesticide load. So yes, it is worth it to make the investment in organic food. Do organic food contain some pesticides? Yes, they will contain some residue there, but again, you're going to get much better, a decrease in that pesticide load, which is directly affecting the IQ points of your kids as well. This is a major, major issue, and still lead and mercury, right? So making sure that you're doing some things to, again, reduce the toxicity level of your kids, which again are things that I went over with some of the supplementation there. So hopefully that gives you guys some really, really good ideas on how to build up a healthy brain, make the switch by removing these toxins from your environment, and then really add in some of the great supplementation and things to actually get well. Now, I will say this too, because I want to mention it. From a toxicity level, when you're talking about removing toxins in kids, it is important to make sure that you are doing it appropriately with a practitioner who knows how to do it appropriately. I'll tell you right now, with kids, we do not use things like chelators with kids. I don't believe that, I think there's better ways nowadays to do that, to actually remove some toxins. So in our office, we do kind of a modified version of true cellular detox with kids, and we see amazing results with kids with like ADD, ADHD, autism, some of the ones that were actually coming into this world with a bigger toxic burden than some of the other kids out there. So again, keep that in mind, utilizing products like Cyto Detox, which is a hydrolyzed actual liposomal zeolite that really does a great job of systemically grabbing onto toxins, including heavy metals, so that you can safely remove those from the body. But again, make sure that you're with a practitioner in order to do that appropriately and safely. I'll tell you right now, just throwing a ton of chlorella or spirulina into the body, it just doesn't always work that well when there's a massive toxic load. Unfortunately, you got to take a lot of it, and they're just not strong enough binders to things like mercury and lead to really get those out of the body. But just as a recap, again, for those of you just joining us, the things that I said to watch out for to make sure that you're protecting your child's brain is, number one, protect their gut. Make sure that their gut microbiome is absolutely amazing. And then also two, looking for, let's see, Ruth said, is that safe after a vaccine detox if needed? Yes. So again, utilizing something like Cyto Detox would be great. I like to use a combination. If again there's damages from certain things like medication or other factors like that, again you're gonna need to do more of a protocol kind of long term to get it out. But you're gonna also have to reset their methylation, right? Their methylation is gonna get hit really, really hard, which is basically the ability for your body to detoxify and protect the DNA, right? So I would use something like MORS, M-O-R-S, from Systemic Formulas, that actually is created to hit every step of the methylation process, 21 steps in that methylation process to kind of reset that, right, and get that going again. I like to use ENRG, which again is by Systemic Formulas, that actually helps to increase the function of your mitochondria in your cell, right? So really ramping that up, as well as increasing the amount of mitochondria in your cell. So I think that should be a part of a really good quality, safe detox as well. And again, making sure that you're using some safe binders, because you do have to bind these toxins in the gut. If you don't bind them in the gut, they will redistribute. So you'll get rid of some, but if they redistribute, then again through the bile, again, these will go into the bloodstream and can create other problems, major problems later on. So you got to do it appropriately. And I'll say this because it is kind of a hard thing to go over a full detox protocol. If this is your first time listening to us, just again, make sure that you like and follow our page. I've went over some different, detoxification strategies in previous videos, but also too, if you're a parent, make sure, if you're wanting more of this information, we have something called our Wellness Academy that's specifically built for parents with kids. So it's specifically built for moms and kiddos, and really it's a wealth of knowledge where we bring videos and different courses to you guys every single month. And again, we give you guys access to those. We do question and answer lives all the time, and we really dive into deep topics. So if you've never done that before, you can go on doctorswarren.com and you can check that out, doctorswarren.com, and actually check those things out there as well. Danielle says, I need to do this for my oldest. Yeah, at some point, all of you guys are going to need to dive into some detoxification, with the kids. Why? Because like I said earlier, generational toxins, they're already born with toxins that are coming from mother to baby. No fault of your own, right? No fault of anybody there, but what we know is it gets passed down, so their toxic bucket is more full than what yours was. And so we know that, based on a study in 2007, the Environmental Working Group looked at mother to baby. They looked at cord blood and found 287 toxins going from mother to baby, in which around 200 of them were actually known to be cancer causing. 187 of them were actually known to create neurological disease. So we know that our kids are being exposed to these things. So we have to do our best to limit their exposure, right? Which is what we went over. Get rid of the flame retardant clothing and the flame retardant, cribs and the mattresses. Use more of an organic, natural one like Naturopedic. Use some of those clothing brands that I recommended earlier, like Hannah Anderson, like Art and Eden, Patagonia makes some of those. Things like, Touched by Nature. I went over a lot of them earlier, so you can go back and watch that. And make sure that you're utilizing those and support those companies too, right? We vote with our money. Just like 5 years ago, right, when organic food was astronomically high priced, and now we voted with our money, and now we're starting to see those prices come down. Finally, thank God. But it's worth it to invest in you, and it's worth it to invest in your kids. We have to. Again, our country and the future of it, literally relies on it. But also to your children, their children deserve that, right? You guys are raising some world changers. I absolutely know it. So we want to make sure that we're protecting them the best that we possibly can. And so again, if this is your first time listening to us, I'm super glad that you're here. Again, like and follow our page, Doctors Warren, on Facebook, and also to doctorswarren.com. You can check that out. But please leave a comment with the things that you guys have done to lower your toxic load in your kids. I would love to be able to read those and respond. So if you've done some amazing things to lower your toxic load with your kids, please comment below and let us know what you've done to do that. If you have a favorite clothing brand that you like to use for your kids, let us know. If there's another mattress that is out there, that is organic and that you like to use, let us know that too. We like to share information, because us coming together as a community is what is going to be how we're going to be able to change the world, and that's what I'm excited about the most. All right, guys. So I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you soon.